Okay, so here's the deal. I thrifted this sweater a few months ago now, and I have been wearing it non-stop. It is so amazing. I love the fit, and I especially love the colours. I love that it's fuzzy. The problem is, it is 100% acrylic, so even though it seems like the perfect, light winter cover up, it actually gets a bit sweaty. So the plan is to make one myself. So I have thrifted this Alaskan mohair. It's 70% wool, 20% mohair and 10% nylon. So I think this will be sort of the perfect equivalent to this. I'll probably hold it double. It's quite light in comparison. It's quite thin. So I'm thinking I'm going to hold this double and create my own version of this. Of course, I only have white and light pink. So the plan is to actually dye a bunch of this cream colour to make a similarly colourful, fun, fuzzy sweater. I did buy a little while ago a Dyeing Yarn Naturally book, and there's some really amazing recipes in here that I really want to try, but I have never dyed yarn before, and I feel like that's a bit ambitious for a first project. So instead, I'm going tried and true Rit Dyes. I picked up Truly Green and Fuchsia. So I think I will have a light green, a dark pink, plus a pale pink. And then the plan is to knit a wave sweater and do green as the background, pink as one of the waves, and pale pink as two of the waves. I've also seen on Ravelry that a few people have knit the pattern shorter in the body by making like a mini wave, which I really love, and then they do two mini waves on the sleeves so that you get the same motif of the smaller wave that you have on the body, whilst maintaining the length of the sleeves. So I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to do the mini waves as the darker pink and the large waves as this pale pink that I already have, and then the rest is going to be the dark green. So I think the first step is going to be to wind all of this up into hanks so that I can then dye it. I thrifted a big spaghetti pot to use to dye my yarn, and I think that that's all I'm going to need. So let's get started, I suppose. Okay, so I've wound up one ball, and what I did was I measured with a piece of cotton yarn just around my swift so that I could approximate how many meters I had in each ball, because this vintage yarn just doesn't tend to have the meters per grams, and these are just 25 gram balls, so they're quite small. So apparently there's only 57 meters per ball, and I think I need about 750 meters of my main color So that's 14 balls held single, but it's 28 held double. And that just seems like way too much. So I think what I'm going to do is just take a pause, and before I continue, I'm going to knit up a swatch, which is crazy to say. I am anti-swatch, but I think in this case it's worth it because I feel like I have a lot of these. Like I've got 31 balls of the pink, 23 balls of the white. I felt like it was enough to make like 2 whole jumpers, and it seems ridiculous that I'll need to use nearly all of it and only have a tiny bit of pink left over if I make the wave sweater held double. I guess the thing is, like, I'm planning on cropping the body, and that's not accounting for that. But still, I would have to dye up all 23 balls of the white to have enough of the green. And then I would have to dye over some of the pink balls to get the dark pink for the waves. So I think I'm going to knit a swatch, see how it looks, and maybe we're going to scrap this project before it even begins. But it's all part of the process. So I'm going to go have a coffee, and I'll come back and knit a swatch with you. Okay, so I have a quick update for you. I started knitting. I don't know whether you can see. Come on. Doesn't want to focus. It's so fuzzy. But I feel like this is an okay gauge. You know, like it's not totally see-through, and it is very similar to this, isn't it? So maybe I won't have to hold it double. Also realizing these needles, these are the Addy short circular needles. Oh my god, the tips are so blunt, and it is a nightmare to knit this fluffy yarn with these needles. So I'll definitely use my wooden Leica needles. They're much pointier. But yeah, I'm thinking that maybe I'll be able to do singles. I'll knit a little bit more on the swatch and block it, I think, before I make a final decision. But so far I am really liking the fabric, and yeah, it's pretty crazy like how similar it is to this thickness as well and weight of sweater. So that's good. And you can tell that I am new to swatching because I cast on 30 stitches for some reason. I don't know why I thought that would be a good number. That's too long. Anyway, maybe I'll be one of those cool YouTubers who has a wall full of swatches behind to show off all of my previous work. You know, one can dream. Okay, coffee number 2, and I've started knitting halfway through a row. But I've started knitting it in double, and it is much more opaque. You can sort of see the difference. The thing is, like, it's so thick, and I know that because it's full colour work, it's going to become almost double the thickness. It's got quite a lot of mohair in it, and I live in a temperate climate. I live in close to Sydney, Australia, in the Blue Mountains, so it is a bit chilly. This morning it was about 2 degrees when I woke up, and you know, it's 11 o'clock now and it's already 14, so it's really not that cold. We're almost at the middle of winter. I think winter solstice is a week away, so it's not going to get that much colder, you know. And so even though I think this is beautiful, I should go with the thinner fabric. It's more similar to this, like you can see, you can see my shirt underneath. It's not fully opaque. I feel like that's more appropriate for the climate I live in. Maybe I'll move to Tasmania, who knows? But yeah, I think I'll just finish a few more rows on this. I'll make it 10 rows and cast it off and block it, and we'll go from there. I'll measure the gauge. I'm just not sure. I really love how this looks too, by the way. I feel like you could knit a sweater with the stripe pattern being that, just with the little garter bumps on the middle. So cute. Such a nice colour. You can tell that I like this colour. It's quite similar to my hair. Fairy floss. Anyway, yeah. So I'm just going to continue. We'll block it and make a decision from there. Good thing about winter in Australia, still get the beautiful sun. So I have my swatch here. I'm just going to leave it in the sun. Hopefully it won't take too long to dry. Can't believe how hairy it is post blocking. Like all the mohair fibers have really come to the surface. And I don't know if you can see on my hand. If I hold to the light, you can see all of those little long fibers that have come off the yarn. So that'll be interesting. I feel like this project is going to shed a lot, but maybe a lot of that shedding is going to come out when I'm dyeing the yarn. So we'll see. I'm thinking that I'll probably do the thinner version at this point. Wow, it's already so dry. So I'm thinking I'm just going to spend a little bit more time today just winding up some of the white yarn ready to dye. I'm going to need at least 10 balls of it if I do the thinner one, so I can do that now. While I just watch some other knitting content. It's day 2, dye day. My block is dried and I like the texture and the weight of the single ply version. It's much nicer, and that way I can make 2 sweaters with the same quantity of yarn, so that's good. So I'll just use half for this project and half for another project. And I am sure that once this is colour worked and it's double thickness, that will be plenty warm enough for my climate. So I'm set up outside ready to dye. I have a little mini skein of the white and the green dye. We're going to do that first. got a clothes rack covered in plastic, ready to hold the yarn to dry. Got all of my hanks here, ready to dip. Thermometer, and we're just set up on like a little induction burner, and I've got some little forks for pulling the yarn out of the water. So I think I'm just going to go get some gloves and we are ready to go. Okay, we're back and we have all of our pre-wetted skeins in there. Still not quite up to temperature. So it says 140 Fahrenheit, which is about 60 degrees Celsius. So we'll just wait for that to heat up. This is exciting. Okay, I've got my salt and my vinegar. Okay, that's perfectly 60 degrees now. So I will add 1 cup of each. I haven't exactly measured how much water I have. So what I'm going with is that I want equal amounts of salt and vinegar. I think that's just going to help the dye get into the fabric nice and deep. And hopefully fix it. I really don't want to end up with green skin after wearing this jumper. Alright, give it a stir. It's all dissolved. Now we can go ahead and add the dye. Ooh, jeez, that's green. Very dark. Okay. Put that back on, give it a good shake. I don't know how dark I really want the fabric. I'm just going to add about half at first, I think. Jeez, it's dark. Okay. I really don't want it to be a dark green. I want it to be like the colour that's on the packet. Alright. Here's a moment of truth. Yeah, okay, that's not too dark. That's a good colour. It sort of blends into my glove. Okay. Alright. Let's let that soak for a little bit. So, we're going in for real. Yeah, at least 30 minutes or until desired colour is achieved. So we can pull it out whenever we like. Interesting. I feel like that's a good green. I don't want it any darker. Right. Just rinse it out. Yeah, that's good, right? Enough contrast. It's hard to tell. Don't want it darker than that. Maybe just a tad. Just stir it for a bit longer. So it says you have to stir continuously, but I'm really worried I'm just going to end up with one huge ball knotted up. So I'm actually not planning on stirring. And I'm okay with it just being slightly mild, or, you know, more of a tonal green than a, you know, factory dye green. All right. How's that? Whew, wow, yeah, that definitely makes a difference, doesn't it? Yeah, that's as dark as I want it, for sure. All right. Beautiful. I'm going to hang that up to dry. And then we're going to go for it. We're just going to do all of it. Okay, so this is dye lot 1. Not dry yet. Definitely a tonal yarn. The consistency of the colour is okay. Good enough, you know, and it's hard to tell, like, whether it's just that some sections are still a bit more wet than others. But this hank definitely caught the most of the green. But I think overall, that can be a matching set, and I'll just have to be a bit careful when I'm choosing which skein to use next. I think it's looking good. Okay, here we go for round 2. Here we go for round 2. Pink. I'm doing less water this time, so I'm just doing half the amount of salt and vinegar, but still maintaining equal ratios of salt and vinegar. So this is me after I've rinsed all of the excess dye out of the yarn. So I let it dry fully and then rinsed it. So much colour came out. So I spent quite a long time agitating it. I was really worried that I'd felted it all. You could see in that last clip how felted it became, but luckily it caked up nicely. I then flew over to Hobart to visit my younger sister. And forgot to show you me casting on. I thought I filmed the clip, but I must have deleted it when I went to record that video of a wallaby that was eating outside the window as I started knitting, which was really nice. Anyway, this is the time lapse I did for the first bit of colour work, and yeah. Okay, so we have gotten through the main part of the colour work. So it's essentially, you know, you do the curves and then it's just a 4x3 stripe in colour all the way around for quite a few rows. It's not very exciting. It's not really super scratching the colour work itch, to be honest. Like something like this, or I'm working on a hot water bottle cover at the moment. Sorry, that's loud. Yeah, this scratches the itch. At first, it kind of does, but it's just not complicated enough, in my opinion. But it looks good. I'm excited for the look, but it feels more like a plain stocking knit project, to be honest, rather than a colourwork project, with the downside of getting tangled yarn. So I'm not sure that I'm really loving the pattern so far. Anyway, I won't film myself knitting the stripes. I'll come back once I finish the first light pink wave and when I join the dark pink for the tiny wave. Hello and welcome to another chilly day in Hobart. I have officially finished the first wave. I'm loving the way that these colours are going so far. I've measured the length. This is about 14 centimetres when in the pattern it should be approximately 16. So my row gauge is already slightly off, I assume, because, you know, I'm using what's probably a fingering weight yarn, or I guess a sport weight yarn, when I should be using a worsted weight yarn. But the stitches are filling in so well, like it's not going to be a see-through sweater at all. Mostly because of all of the yarn floats. So super happy with how it's showing up so far. But yeah, the row gauge is off. So I think instead of doing exactly half, so there's 5 rows for the curve on each side. That's 10 stitches and then 22 rows of just the stripe. So originally I was going to do it so that, you know, if this is a total of 32, I would make it the second smaller wave a total of 15. But I think I don't want it to be that cropped. That's going to be significantly cropped. So instead I'm going to do it 1/3 of the total, 2/3 of the total length. So I'll keep 5 rows for each curve, and then instead of doing 22 in the middle here, I'll just do 10. And I think that will work out really nicely. So I'll have 2/3 of the width wave in the darker pink colour. And I think based on the pattern, you can see that she actually has a little bit extra wave down the bottom here on the sleeve. So I'm hoping that doing it the way that I'm doing it, instead of having 3 and a bit waves on the sleeve, I'll be able to have 2 full-size waves in the pale pink and 2 small waves in the dark pink, and it will just work perfectly, and I won't have to do any partial waves, because that is not my favorite part of the pattern, that's for sure. And I should be able to just adjust it based on, like, even if it's not quite long enough, I can just do longer twisted rib to make up the difference. But I think it should be well and truly long enough. Anyway, I still haven't split for the sleeves in the main body yet, so I'm still just working around. So yep, I'll do another time lapse of me integrating our next colour, which is so exciting. Okay, so obviously a lot of time has passed. It's now week 4 of knitting this wave sweater, and I would say everything has gone very well to plan. I do like the length. Just got the ribbing of this second sleeve to do, the rest is cast off. I ended up just doing a regular basic cast off for this rather than a sewn bind off, because the yarn, it just doesn't, it was just catching on itself way too much when I was pulling it through, especially for this bottom rib. It was just a nightmare. I think I got through like 10 stitches and I was like, no, I'm not casting off like that. And it's not as stretchy as it could be, but it's plenty stretchy. And it is quite an oversized fit, and if anything, it's only going to grow, right? But I was just looking at how much yarn I had left. So I've got maybe 10, 15 rows of ribbing to do on this sleeve. So that's the same as this, which if I just stand up, okay, should have worn pants. Yeah, you can see it is a good length. It's sort of bracelet length. A little bit longer now, but it will grow quite a bit with blocking, I reckon. So yeah, happy with that. But I still have this much green yarn left, and like 1 full skein plus 2 partial skeins of the darker pink dyed. And it's not like that's enough to make another project, right? And I've already kind of decided what I'm going to do with the rest of this mohair, and I could potentially use this dark pink colour, but I really want to do natural dyeing. I don't really want to do Rit Dye again, so then, you know, this will stand out as like very different to the others. And the green, I just don't see being able to integrate that at all. So it feels wasteful not to use it. So I was thinking maybe I just make it a full length sweater and add another pink, dark pink small wave here. Because if I undo this bottom rib, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's 1 full skein and just the dregs, the last one, and that's not including that much of the skein that's currently connected to my sleeve, so I really don't want to rip out the bound off edge and all that ribbing, because I did bother to do twisted rib, but I think it's probably worth it, because otherwise this yarn is just going to be languishing in my stash with no purpose. I wouldn't say this is a very common fibre to find, like I wouldn't use it for a colour work project, like a scrappy project, because of the mohair content and just the structure of the fibre. Like it won't combine well with anything else that I see myself sort of getting. Yeah, so I think in order to be less wasteful, I'll just make this jumper huge. And especially because I made these sleeves, I didn't do any decreases at all on the sleeves, because I was so happy that the number of waves is exactly the number of stitches is exactly right to have complete waves. So there's no interruption to the motif at all, which is great. And I loved that so much that I thought I wouldn't do any decreases. I would just keep it the same length the whole way down. And I do think that's fun. Yeah, so the downside would be that if I add the extra row of pink, the extra wiggle, then it won't really go as well with dresses, because it's hard to wear a dress that's a good length. Like I don't like wearing a really oversized jumper on top of a dress, because all of my dresses are very voluminous in the bottom. So I just don't like that sort of look on me. I just don't find it comfortable. And I know I've seen lots of people post about like wearing a belt and tucking your jumper up into your belt, but if I'm wearing a dress and a jumper, I just want to be comfortable, especially if I'm wearing something really roomy. Like I want to appreciate that roominess, and I don't want to add anything restrictive onto it. So that's the only downside. And yeah, maybe this is crazy, but maybe like because it will just hold itself up so well, you know, I can just tuck it up if I want it to be cropped, and the too thinness of the mohair will sort of hold it together for that. So it's not that much of a downside, and it does seem like a shame to waste so much, because I think I'll use, for this stripe, I used just over a full skein. So yeah, I can use probably at least either both of these or just this, and probably all of the rest of the green. Yeah, so I think that's what I'm going to do, which is annoying because I was really excited to finish. And it's also funny because like I've got this huge cast on tail that I haven't woven in. How long is that? It's like 60 centimeters probably. Didn't weave it in thinking, oh well, you know, I might have to rescue some of this yarn to be able to cast off properly. But no, I dyed up more than enough of the green, and I'm so happy that I found recently an undyed skein of the beige yarn. So even though I said I was going to dye up 14 skeins, I only dyed 13. And yeah, so I'm glad I didn't do that, because then I would have way too much, whereas I feel like I'll be able to use nearly all of this. Each wave here was using like 1 and a bit skeins. Well, this used 2. So yeah, I think if I add that much ribbing to the bottom again, I'll be able to use at least one full skein. And then I'll probably have to use a little bit of that to finish off the ribbing on the sleeve. So yes, the project is going to take a little bit longer. I really hope that I don't ruin the yarn when I rip it out, because it does look like the toothiness is really like gripped onto itself, but that's also how it looked after I dyed it. When I pulled it out of the dye bath, the green looked incredibly felted, but it pulled apart fine with, I think I only broke it once. So yes, that's the plan, I think. And yeah, I haven't been filming myself too much because I'm visiting my sister at the moment, and I think the last time I checked in with you is when I was starting this darker pink stripe. But you know, it is just knitting. There's not that much to it. There's only so many time lapses I can include in one video, and I feel like this video is already going to be plenty long. So yeah, especially when there's probably 3 people watching, so you know. But yeah, really so pleased with how it's turning out. It looks so good, so fun, very warm. I'm in Hobart at the moment, and yeah, it's like 2 or 3 degrees most nights, and this is plenty warm with just like a long sleeve t-shirt underneath. So yeah, I'll make it full length and then it will be warmer. Like you can see when I raise my arm, like you can see my ribs. So yeah, could definitely do with being longer. So I'll do that. Okay, it's probably enough, and it's starting to rain again and my light's disappearing anyway. So I'm going to hopefully finish the sleeve today and then rip it back tonight, and hopefully I'll be able to get the next wave done reasonably quickly, and then we can wrap up the video. So I think I'll come back and talk to you once I have blocked it as well. I think this is close enough to being done. I'll probably film a TikTok or something of the pre-blocked jumper, but I don't foresee it being that interesting. And you'll be able to see in this video the change in the sleeves to see the difference. But I think my intention is it's okay pre-blocked anyway. Like for colour work, I would say that that is pretty good. There's no puckering or anything like that on the waves. It is quite interesting, like you can see this skein of green was really speckly, whereas the others were a lot more uniform. Like this one, this is sort of what I was expecting with the green. For that amount of tonal variation, this one was extreme. And this is the super dark skein, which I think works quite well as the neck. Yeah. But anyway, I think it works. It's just adding like a second layer of striping to the overall look. So it's not as bad as I think it would have been if I was to knit like a fully green jumper with this dye lot. I think that wouldn't have really worked. It would have looked a bit silly, but because it's sort of going along with the wave stripes, yeah, I think it looks quite good. And yeah, I think it suits me as well. It's very comfortable. Maybe it will be too hot still, even after making it more of a light fingering than a worsted weight, but we will see. Okay, so it's officially finished. I'm super pleased with how it turned out. It is very similar in aesthetic to my original inspiration jumper, but the fit is a little bit different. The arms are obviously like much wider in the end, because I made that a spontaneous decision to keep the pattern perfectly repeating under the underarm rather than having a decrease line to sort of mimic this line, which I don't regret. I do like the way the sleeves fit. And then the body is slightly narrower than that original jumper. But I do like the fit and I love the colours. I think adding this second dark pink row to the body really made the colours work a bit more cohesively when I look back at videos when I had just added a longer ribbing to the bottom. Yeah, it definitely didn't look as good. I'll put in some clips here about what it looked like before and after blocking, as well as I've got a clip about how much of the green leached out in the water when I blocked it, as well as how much of the green was caught by the colour catcher that I put in with it. So I think definitely it'll be washed separately when I'm hand washing my knits. I won't just go in with everything, which is okay. And it is definitely an outerwear piece. It's quite a toothy yarn, and I don't know, I swear that before blocking it was skin soft, and when I was trying it on and filming TikToks in it I didn't notice the itch, but now I am noticing the itch a little bit more. Definitely not so itchy that I can feel it like through a t-shirt, but definitely enough that like you'd want to wear long sleeves underneath it. I actually wonder whether now it's because I've moved back up onto the mainland, so maybe it's just a bit warmer here. So when I was trying it on in Tassie, it was a bit chill, and I think that I notice the itch less when I'm appreciating the warmth that it provides. So yeah, we'll see. It might be more of a wintry piece than the original jumper that I was basing this one off. So in terms of leftovers, this is how much green I ended up with, which is great. This one was just in the bottom of my suitcase and I didn't realise, and I chickened out and cast off because I really didn't want to have an incomplete row and then have to rip it back because the yarn's so toothy. It's really hard to rip back actually. So yeah, a little bit more than what I would have liked, but definitely a reasonable amount. And that is with this missing. So I originally said I was going to dye 14 balls of green, and this one somehow snuck underneath my chair or something and missed the dye bath. So that one is still left beige, but it's worked out well because 14 balls would have definitely been too much, and I was trying to dye slightly more than what I needed, then slightly less, because obviously it's better to have just a little bit more and be able to finish the jumper rather than having to like do like a white stripe or something like that at the bottom. And then this is the amount of pink, so 2 little tiny scraps and 1 half ball left of that. So pretty good. I think I'm much more likely to use this pink colour. So you can see it matches quite well with like what I'm wearing now. I do wear this sort of colour quite a lot, whereas the green I don't really make too much with green, so much less likely to use that. So yeah, overall I think the project is quite a good success. Definitely feel much more confident to dye my own yarn now, and I'm really excited to try out some natural dyes. So I've been reading my book. I'll put some tags in it, so hopefully the next dye video will be some sort of natural dye. I think maybe what was my favourite one? Maybe Dahlia, because you can get some really beautiful oranges and yellows. So that'll be exciting. But yeah, if you haven't read this book, it's really good. It's really focused on sustainability, and she goes in a lot with like different options and ways to test without going through a lot of wastage, and how to source your materials ethically and sustainably. So I really appreciate like the amount of thought and effort that went into this book. Is really good. It's always tempting to just watch a YouTube video about it, but there's so much more in there, and recipes that would be hard to get if you did it that way. Yep, so final thoughts are, I'm very pleased with the jumper, but it does not meet the requirements of the original jumper that I was trying to copy. But that's okay, I'm happy with it now how it is, and I did meet the goal of becoming more confident dyeing yarns. Yeah, I think it was a really good first test, and this is definitely much more wearable to me than anything that I could have knit in the beigey white colour. So yeah, it's really good. So yes, thank you for coming along in the journey. This kind of experimentation is a lot what I want to be doing in this channel, rather than just your regular knitting podcast, but I will do that as well. Yeah, I like having fun and learning new crafts, so that's sort of what I wanted to share on here, so that when I'm getting really excited collecting all the information for a new project, I have somewhere to spew all that information back out. So yeah, anyway, thank you for watching. Don't forget to Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe or like the video if you liked it.